Welcome to Ear Biscuits, the podcast where two lifelong friends talk
Oh, there you go, see? We built it up so much.
about life for a long time. I technically didn't mess it up. I just paused in the middle.
Yeah, you kind of had a
I just
burst.
stopped and I picked it up. I'm Rhett.
And I'm Link. This week at the round table of not as dim lighting in our secondary but special location, we're gonna talk about the questions that keep you up at night. That was the prompt that we put out there into the world. You know, we put these prompts out into the world on our Twitter feed. Follow us on Twitter at Mythical. If
Twitter
you want
feed.
to, if you want to see what these things are, if you want to be a part of it, if you want to hear us say your Twitter handle and then rip your contribution to shreds or not.
That's not gonna happen.
It never happens.
I'm super appreciative. I'm going to laud you with praise
So we go through these
for your
things.
thoughts.
You know, we'll come up with these prompts, or Kiko or Jacob will help us come up with these prompts sometimes, things that might lead to discussion. We have no clue what people are gonna say. And then
No, I do, Link.
we sift through it.
I've been a student of the internet for so many years. I know exactly what kind of responses we're going to get.
Well, did you know that the responses to what question keeps you up at night could be pretty heavy?
Yeah. I mean, we live in heavy times.
Yeah, and then once we were going through them, I think we just had a different vibe. So
Who was that rapper?
we didn't pick the
Who was the rapper?
the heaviest ones. This conversation we're gonna keep it light.
What was the rapper that had heavy? It was
Heavy D?
Heavy D.
Heavy D and the Boys.
Heavy D.
I
Heavy
think there was a Z. on
Heavy
Apple.
Times would be like the perfect comeback album for Heavy D right now.
He is dead.
Oh, that'd be quite a comeback.
That would also, if someone has died and then they make a new album, quite a comeback is a good one. Of course, there's a lot of people putting out posthumous albums.
Yeah, people think Tupac's still alive.
I know. Well, I mean, what do you think of the new Pop Smoke?
I've heard my son talking about this. I can't say I've partaken.
I only know one Pop Smoke song. I mean, if someone's dead, I don't really want to get into him. Lincoln was a huge fan of Juice WRLD before he died. And then it's so sad now, you know?
I thought you said you didn't want to be heavy.
You did it.
I was talking about
talking about
Heavy D
Heavy
coming
D.
back,
Yeah,
and then you
but-
said he was dead. You could have lied to me. You could have said, yeah, he's back.
What was that Heavy D song? What was the song?
He had like a song or two, you know. It wasn't great.
his voice was kind of like, he kind of had a newscaster voice. It was interesting.
Huh.
The way that he rapped, he had a newscaster kind of,
Never thought of it like that.
not kind of lilt to his voice.
I have something that I need to catch you up on, you and you.
Do it.
So some of you who may follow me closely on the Twitter, or even follow my wife closely on the Twitter, know that we tend to get into these little back and forths, and sometimes she'll take a picture of me doing something stupid or whatever. And a couple weeks ago, and maybe a few weeks ago by this point, she took a picture of me with a feline, which is the technical term for a cat. Now, you might know that I typically, I'm not fond of cats. I was once hypnotized to try to like cats, and I couldn't. I tried. I gave it the old college try. And I have stated clearly that I don't hate cats, I just strongly prefer dogs, right? Lots of theories about why this is.
I think you've even said that, so the times when you assert your hate for cats,
It's kind of a bit.
it's a comedic assertion.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's one of those things that's based in the truth that I prefer dogs.
It's a heightened reality.
I would not own a cat or have a cat as a pet if you don't like the term own for pets. And some people have been like, well, people who don't like cats are full of themselves. They want somebody to worship them. They're afraid of rejection. Maybe all that's true. I don't know, but I do prefer dogs more. However, my wife and I have been taking a lot of walks during the COVID, and I don't know, 6 weeks ago, we're walking past this house that we have walked past many times, and what do you call the cat that's like an orange striped cat? Garfield?
I thought that was a tabby cat.
I don't know, I'm not a cat expert.
I don't know much.
Let's just call it a Garfield-like cat. Makes a beeline for us as we're passing this house, okay?
Yeah.
Like coming at us hard. And at first I was a little bit like, and when a cat's coming at you hard, I mean, somebody like me who's not typically scared of animals is like, what's this cat gonna do? What is it called? Orange cat breed. It's what you have is what I've seen.
What breed are orange cats?
Tabby, the orange tabby. You were right.
Persian Munchkin, American Bobtail, British Shorthair, Bengal, Maine Coon, Abyssinian, and Egyptian
It was like
Mouse.
It was like that. It was like your classic short-haired. That one right there. That's it.
Yeah, it was like the cat I had as a child, Thomas, who only came to my house and visited me in the shed out back whenever he felt like it.
So anyway, this tabby cat approaches us and begins to meow loudly. And again, not being a cat expert, I don't know exactly what this means, but he does not seem to be aggressive at all. And then he proceeds to—
At both of you or just you?
Both of us. Then he proceeds to do that thing where cats rub up against your leg.
Okay.
Ostensibly to say, hey, I like you, I love you. And this doesn't happen often with cats and me, or cats and people that I knew of.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I'm immediately sort of into this cat. I mean, I gotta be honest with you.
Oh,
yeah.
Right there on the street,
And
huh?
again, this probably, fits perfectly the theory that people who want to be worshiped and loved and are afraid of rejection like dogs more. And if you can find a cat that's dog-like and wants to love you, worship you, and not reject you, then you feel you love the cat back. That's me, I'm shallow. So this cat is cat is really going at my legs. Really begins to have an affinity for me. I get down on my knees.
What were you wearing, shorts or pants?
I don't walk in pants.
Were you wearing that carpet suit from way back in the day that we have?
Nope, just my straight carpety legs were the things that this cat was rubbing on. Okay. And my wife got a picture with it. Not a great picture, it was dark. I was looking down, but she posted it on Twitter, and I said, more to come. I think I tweeted something like, breaking news, I have found a cat that I think I like, or something like that.
I did see that.
So let me just tell you that I began to always want to walk past this house.
Oh, a tryst.
And this cat, 7 out of 10 times, would be there. No identifying marks. I mean, other than it's what it looks like. I mean, no leash, no collar.
Okay.
No leash, of course it wasn't on a leash, he was carrying a leash. No collar. And it would just come out into the road. And but
it would always come from that house, even though it didn't have a—
Always come from that house. Like it would be in that front yard of that house. Sometimes it would be sitting on the steps. And also—
So people feed feral cats.
When we walked with Barbara, it would come up to Barbara like, hello, friend, on
Seriously?
4 legs. Yes, like, and Barbara, you know how Barbara reacted to that cat in the video? Barbara just kind of was indifferent towards this cat, but did not growl, did not hiss, didn't do anything,
really?
Didn't bark.
Neutral territory, not your home. That's what people are saying in the comments.
And I began to really like this cat. And I actually began to think things like,
I'm gonna steal this cat?
Well, I thought that a little bit. I wasn't gonna admit that. No one would know. I started to think, I think I could have a cat. Boy, wouldn't that send waves through the internet? I mean, maybe I think a little too highly of myself, but at least through the fandom.
It would send a ripple through a subset of our fandom.
Right, and then one time, the most recent time I saw the cat, Jesse and I are walking, he comes up, he does this thing, I pet him, he's purring, he's meowing, and then we start walking, he's like, I'm gonna walk with you guys. Just starts walking with us.
Huh.
Walks a full block. And at that point, I'm like, do you really want to keep walking with us? I mean, this is a 4-mile walk, bud. And he seemed to understand the English, and he sort of slowed down, turned around. But I started to think, this is, we live, there's coyotes around, and I've seen in our old house.
Coyote will get a cat.
I once found.
Or a little dog.
I think I told this story on a Ear Biscuit in times gone by. Found just a half a cat in my front yard one time.
Yeah.
Right, so that's what coyotes do to cats. They take half.
Hey, you were halfway there. Way back then, you just didn't know it.
They take half, they leave half.
You're a cat lover.
And So I was worried.
I love cats, but I love them in their whole form.
Especially, and it was just the back half of the cat, which the coyote
Yeah, I
takes the
remember.
interesting part. So I was worried about this cat. I was like, you just can't be befriending
look
everyone.
Look at you with emotions
You can't
towards the cat.
just go up to dogs and people. Like, you can't just trust people. I felt like I had like a fatherly instinct to be like, you need to watch videos about strangers and vans and stuff. So
carry a picture of a coyote next time you walking past.
just the other night,
Oh no, is this bad?
Jesse and I are walking, getting ready to get up to the house. Get to the house. On the post in front of the house, there is a sign.
What?
It is a picture of my friend, and it says, "Lost cat."
You stole the cat.
I did not steal the damn cat. The cat's gone.
Oh no.
And
Both halves?
I'm assuming the cat's
but
gone. And then on the rest of our
the
walk,
cat didn't have a collar.
I
Cat
noticed.
never had a collar.
I noticed
If you're gonna
other
make a
signs.
sign for a cat, if you care enough to make a sign when the cat's gone, you should care enough to give the cat a collar before it's gone.
I just think this cat didn't need a collar. But anyway, there's other signs all throughout the neighborhood.
Dang.
And I was just like, what does this mean? What is the, I don't really believe that the universe is telling me things, but I do find it somewhat helpful to just assume the universe is telling me things. I find that a useful way to live.
If God, I'm gonna say God is gonna tell you
I
something.
think that's interchangeable with the term
then,
universe.
For you, then he's gonna tell you something. I hope it's gonna be not about a cat.
Well, I mean,
What are you, if the universe is telling you something, what is it? And why is this about you?
because
Somebody lost their poor cat.
I'm interacting with this cat. So
Okay.
in my world, in my point of reference,
Okay.
I need to understand. That's a weird question to ask.
I'm just messing with you.
I'm trying to figure out how I should interpret this sign. I was moving towards a cat. I was opening my heart towards a cat. I was enjoying time with cat.
And
now cat is gone.
cat was taken from you.
And listen, I feel for these people, but that cat is dead. I mean, I interacted with that cat long enough to know that cat in our neighborhood, that cat is not around anymore.
You thought, but
I mean, maybe somebody did steal it.
you did
because
say for a second you thought I wouldn't like a cat, I would like this cat.
And one time Barbara got out of our house, the story, she literally, like somebody stopped and saw her walking down the street, they opened the door and she jumped in the car with them. That is the kind of dog that Barbara is, and that's the kind of cat that this cat was. So it's a lover, it's not a fighter. And so it tried to love a coyote, and I think the coyote gave it a special kind of love back.
Again, the collar thing reduces the level of sympathy, but I do know that there are people who will feed feral cats, and they will have a relationship with them, but they won't let them in the house.
This is clearly that kind of relationship.
And yeah, we had a guy who was moving out of our neighborhood who was friends with Christy through the gym she used to go to, and he was like, listen, I know you guys live near me a couple of streets down the hill. This is an odd request, but we're moving.
Do you want our cat?
Would you
feed our cat?
Yeah, would you take care of our cat? Because it's a feral cat. It runs through the neighborhood, but we feed it, and she shows up every morning. And I want to bring her to your house and have you feed her and have her start showing up at your door. Like he was really concerned about this cat. And I guess
no.
You can't have it both ways. I would think it would be weird if that cat, a feral cat who you just happen to feed and have a relationship with, when it goes missing, you would put up signs to then what? Bring it back.
So it will come back.
But it goes all. It's a free cat. That cat.
Well, hold on.
The short life it lived.
I'm not a cat expert.
Was a full life, man.
I'm not a cat expert, but I
cat-
tend to believe that feral cats in the traditional sense are not as people. You know, they don't come up to people
That is
and
strange,
meow
yeah.
and
Yeah, that's strange.
and rub on them. This is a house cat. This is a cat that has it both ways. This is a cat that gets whatever it wants. This cat definitely was on the inside and the outside.
And you know what?
This is like a cat in a halfway house. You know what I'm saying?
I think we can celebrate the cat's life, and we don't have to feel sad because
halfway house.
That cat had it all.
Half. He's in half right now.
That cat, everyone it met, it just showered with love. I mean, no offense to you. I don't think you were special.
It ended up developing a special bond with me.
You were a giant dude walking a dog. If it came up to you, that cat would come up to anything. You're right. It would come up to a coyote.
Well, my dog does the same thing. My dog has no loyalty to me, and I still love it. My dog would have gone home and just started a new life with that other family. I know it for a fact. So you never thought about us again.
Okay, well maybe that cat, did you name it?
It has a name and it's on the sign, but I didn't want to say it because I don't want to, I don't like people making connections.
It had a name, but it didn't have a collar.
With the neighborhood, that kind of thing.
Still doesn't add up. I don't think I'm missing anything, am I? It's just,
I think it's pretty simple.
If you're gonna post signs, when it's gone, you need to give it a collar before it leaves.
Yeah, I think the cat was a loose, they were holding on to this cat very loosely and they lost grip.
But for you, the cat was an angel leading you to the love of the feline.
I didn't know where the relationship was going, but it was going places very fast and I was just letting my heart just take flight. It
ended all too soon.
I was rerouting my path to this house. I was spending quality time with the cat. I was getting pictures with the cat.
Are you okay? I don't want to gloss over that.
I don't think I'm okay. Because I don't think I'll find another cat like this.
You won't.
I know for a fact, first of all, if you don't like kittens, you don't have a heart. You're not human if you don't like kittens. Like no one's like, kittens suck, right? Kittens are awesome. I could have a kitten. But the chances that the kitten turns into a regular cat
pretty high.
Are so high.
So high.
And at that point, it's like, I'm not interested anymore. I want the animal to love me. I'm getting emotional support from this animal. When I do my stretches in the morning and Barbara gets on me, I need that. I become dependent upon that. You know what I'm saying? When Barbara leaves or Barbara dies, she will be replaced, potentially with a clone of her, or probably just another dog.
A lot of responses to our prompt of what question keeps you up at night were related to dogs. A lot of people are kept up at night thinking, what does their dog think of them? No one thinks about what their cat thinks of them because I think they know.
Right.
We already talked about that on an Ear Biscuit. So for all of you who, did we not devote an entire Ear Biscuit to this?
To what your dog is thinking?
Yes. I think that was what we call
recently
a rabbit hole episode.
You guys.
So look back through that if you really want us to discuss that because we're not hitting on that today.
Somebody recently said, because it is happening so regularly now that we've got so many episodes of Ear Biscuits and so many episodes of Good Mythical Morning and Good Mythical More, that we will have a conversation about something.
The bidet conversation.
And we're like blown away. Yeah, we talked about the bidets last week or a week before, whatever. People are like, guys, you did a whole episode on GMM where you highlighted this product. You really do forget an episode as soon as it's done, don't you? And the fact is, there's just so many.
Yeah.
Yes, I forgot.
I saw that. I saw that.
I knew that they existed, but I didn't, they didn't exist in my accessible world.
Well, the interesting thing about that, because the memory did flood back when I saw the little segments from the show. We were wearing fake butts and we were testing strange butt products, and one of them was a portable bidet. And it was different than the one that I got. Did you look at it?
No, I didn't watch it.
You didn't see the picture.
Mine's in the bathroom in there. I got it here.
Well, it's like a teal color and it's got a longer wand on it. And the wand doesn't fold down.
Oh, my wand folds down.
Okay, I'm pretty sure the wand doesn't fold.
How does the wand not fold? What is that? What happens then?
It's just, don't squeeze it until you're ready, I think.
Okay.
So here we were squeezing this thing on each other's fake butts over our pants, which had our real butts underneath. And we were just talking about how, I didn't watch it, it was a GIF. So there wasn't anything to listen to, but we were just talking about how strange it was and how we have changed.
Oh yeah, we love it now.
As we said, get on the train. We did it, and we don't even remember when we thought it was weird. That's how revolutionary. This is 2 episodes ago because
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because the other thing people pointed out was
that's how much it can impact your rectum.
Our conversation
your life.
about towel.
That was another one.
And somebody was like, guys,
and
Link was invited to
the context.
The context on Good Mythical Morning a few weeks ago. We did a thing where we tried a bunch of different
levels of Chinese food,
super inexpensive to super expensive, and the super expensive restaurant that we got the food from was called Tao, and I talked about how I went to my friend's birthday party there, super fancy, whatever. And Link was like,
"Why didn't I go?" Guilt trip,
and I said,
like, "Why didn't I go?"
And at the time, I didn't remember, so I figured that you were invited, but I thought it would be funny to act as if you weren't invited. So we had that conversation. People were like, "It's funny how often people try to read so many things into the things that we say to each other." I love it though. That's why I feed into it, but. They were like, Link is really upset about not getting invited to Tao.
I was so upset. Yeah, I was so upset.
He was invited to Tao. He couldn't go for some reason.
The irony, the irony of my joke. It was
2017.
That was
long time ago.
So many years ago. The irony of my joke is that I know it elicits that response, but the joke is predicated on some people's assumption that whenever one of us does anything, that the other person should always be invited. Like that we're always there.
Well, it's like when people find us in public and they say, "Where's Link?" I'm like, I don't know.
Find us in public. Right.
Either one of us. They ask where the other guy is. It's like I could be anywhere in the world, and the 90% of the time, if I'm by myself, it's like, "Where's Link?" I don't know. I don't track him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but we are together a lot, and every time they see us, we're together. So they just assume that must be the way that they exist.
We are together a lot.
Yeah.
But I've never been to Tao. And we totally forgot that we had that conversation, which at that time you were like, you were invited. And I was like, yeah, Christy was invited, but then she forgot to tell me, and then she forgot about it, and we made other plans.
But do you know, think about how impossible it would be to have a brain that could access all your memories, but also at the same time access the venue at which you access those memories publicly. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so we've had so many conversations on Ear Biscuits, on Good Mythical Morning, etc., but we've also had a lot of conversations just in life amongst friends with just the two of us here. And they're part of the brain that would be able to catalog every single memory and also attach a little flag to it that says that conversation happened on Ear Biscuits. Nobody except a very advanced, yet to be invented artificial intelligence could be able to do that.
But we have it. We have a brain extension, and it is the mythical beast
that's
fandom
true.
That remembers these things because, of all of them out there that are talking on the Mythical Society, that are talking on Reddit, that are talking
database for sure.
And they're accessing and binge watching and just having this. It's very fresh to them,
and they can remember it because if they hear us talk about something and they've heard us talk about it before, it's easy to remember that. I've heard that story about the Chinese restaurant before because they don't have to know exactly where it took place, even though this person who found it did know exactly and then cut it out. But
I do think that, and it's changed how we talk about things because we've come to grips with this reality slowly over time. I don't know exactly how you feel about it, but I know that I am overly sensitive to it. Even like I made a comment after our last Ear Biscuit. I was like, I'm not happy with, I don't like referring to stories that we've already told or retelling stories. Like, and you're like, hey, people like that because it gives them a sense of, if you're referring to something that they missed, it's like, hey, I should have been listening earlier. I should have been a part of this. And every new thing we talk about is something that then can be a reference point later because it's part of our lives. And even if we forget it, you can help us with it.
And if they remember it, then they feel like they're a part of something. They've been around.
So I think the way that this phenomenon has impacted us, or at least one way, is we kind of own the fact that we do things for comedic effect, that, and it seems, it doesn't denigrate our sincerity, but it's just strange dance that for the longest time, you know, we told the stories, we put it out there, and then you tell the stories later and they're a little bit different or they morph or whatever, and we talk about like how memory changes and like we give ourselves the excuse. But basically, there's also this, like you said about the cat thing. Years ago, we wouldn't talk about the cat thing in that way. And I think that's part of the phenomenon of like the constant communication with our listeners is that they know us better than we know ourselves sometimes. And so, hey, it's like, oh, we just said that for comedic effect. Or, you know what, we forgot that, so I filled in the gap with something a little bit different. Or whatever the case may be.
Or there was an example of the, I don't know if it was, I think it was the Wired autocomplete interview that we did. And all the comments are, basically it was just we were in one of those weird moods where it's early in the morning in New York City and we did that interview.
Yeah.
And we usually take a super like sarcastic tone when it comes to any of that sort of those interviews that are done in that way. Cause we're just here to be funny, right? And we almost get so committed to sarcasm that we make a mockery of the whole thing. And so people who watch that, the comments are, I don't think they told any truth in this interview. I think that they were joking the whole time. And then if you don't know us, the tone switch between being sarcastic and being truthful, especially for me, there is no tone switch. It's exactly the same. You have to be on your toes.
But there's there's a twinkle in the eye.
Yeah,
but you gotta really know it.
Yeah. Yeah, but usually it's the context of what I'm saying is how you know whether or not it's true. And then sometimes I'll watch something back and I'll be like, yeah, I seemed serious there, but I wasn't. I get it. If you thought I was serious there, I don't blame you. So I don't know. We're just turning this into like a self-analysis podcast. But we do that too much. Let's just let's analyze other people's brains.
And what keeps you up at night?
But first, we don't have them with us, and this is one of the disadvantages to recording here at our secondary location. But we got a new product. We're always doing things that are we're trying to do things to mix things up. We got something called the color-changing Mythical cups. It's a 4-pack of plastic cups that when you put cold beverages into them, or just liquids. I mean, you could put poisonous liquids into them. Just don't drink it. It will change color. I mean,
we sell the only cups on the planet that do this. It's a proprietary science that we've monopolized.
Now see, that was an example of sarcasm.
I'm sure there's other cups that do it, but they probably look stupid and they're not related to us.
Yeah.
So buy ours.
And that was truthful.
Mythical.com.
There's other things besides cups as well. We're
Sip your boys.
We're actually thinking about selling like a cup for a baseball player as well that changes color when it gets hit with a ball.
It's like, did I just get hit with a ball? Yep.
Or it changes color when you put your balls in it. Are my balls in this thing?
Yep.
There it is. It's red. Okay.
Let it be red.
Well, because it could be any color you want. Let's start with a question from, look at this.
Why doesn't a cup?
Yep.
You know how you got truck nuts?
Have a fake pair of nuts?
What? Yeah, like have a sports cup shaped like big nuts. Like, well, you're whispering to yourself.
I'm thinking out loud. What?
I wanna wear a cup next time I play baseball.
Yep.
That the actual shape of the cup is it's got two
places for nuts.
Bulbs. 2 bulbs. It's a double bulbed.
Well, in order to have a double bulb, you've got to have a ridge in the middle, and now you got a ridge in the middle of your scrotum, which is not something anybody wants. Not everybody's nuts hang the same way. Not everybody's nuts are the same size. Why are we talking about this?
Because I think there's white space in the in the cup world.
Cup world. The cup vertical.
I think we can
we
can wedge into the cup world.
Yeah. And
Rhett and Link cups available at mythical.com. It's where the cup is shaped like nuts. Truck nuts.
And maybe we got some that are just for one nut, because some people got one nut. Some people got 3 nuts.
Well, they need to get together.
So they can average out.
Some sort of foreign exchange situation.
Okay, first question is from Caleb W. Francis. We're big fans of Caleb. We
funny guy.
Found him on TikTok. And now we follow each other on social medias of different sorts. He's got a question.
He went to the beach.
I've been following his Instagram stories. I think he took like a full cross-country trip, apparently.
Oh, I saw him on a beach.
The beach, at one point he got to a beach. Why do we only get 2 sets of teeth? The first set only lasts like 5 to 6 years, and the second set is supposed to last a possible 90 plus years. Seems like we could use more sets of backup teeth.
Oh, now Caleb, thank you for responding. You know, you're a public comedian. You know, there's this moment when it's like, okay, am I gonna respond to some other creator's prompt? It's like, okay, if he considers himself just a fan and he's responding that way, then as a mythical beast, boy, that makes me feel good, Caleb. I'm glad you're in the fold. And if you did it just because, for other reasons, I'm glad you did it anyway. You know, what I'm saying is, if you still want to use this teeth bit as a funny TikTok,
you should
still do it.
Right.
You know?
In fact, it may even be cool for people who connect it to.
Yeah, see if you can do that.
Now, this is a great question. Yeah, 2 things come to mind for me. The first thing, you've heard this, that elephants have a certain set of teeth, number of sets of teeth, and then when the final set wears out, they die. That's how they know they're supposed to die. My teeth are gone, and that's not actually how it works. They just can't eat anymore. But the second thing that I think about is, I often think about when people get their teeth knocked out. In sports, hockey, whatever, just maybe an accident with a weed whacker, it happens, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing I'm thinking about when somebody gets their teeth knocked out as an adult, I'm like, that's it. Those teeth are gone forever. Like now that you're gonna have some kind of denture situation.
Uh-huh.
Now it's one thing if you get dentures when you get old, but when you're like 22 and you get your front teeth knocked out, it's like, damn. You got to get dentures now, right? I mean, I guess maybe they got some sort of technology.
They're pretty good. They're pretty good at that, though.
Yeah, I don't think it ends up being that big of a deal
I mean,
now. But think about the old days. Let's go back before modern dentistry.
Wooden teeth.
Wooden teeth, man. Or even before that, let's go back to
people's teeth.
Let's go back
people's
to
mouths.
like the cave people. Think about how devastating it would be. Like you get into a fight and you're like, I'm gonna punch you in the face. It's gonna break your front teeth. And so for the rest of your life on this earth, you can't like bite a turkey leg.
Well, if you not if you only knock a couple out, you can still bite out.
You can't bite it in the same way. You're gonna be a side biter. And if you got a little mouth like me, side biting is difficult. So I think you should have backup teeth.
I mean, I don't know how many teeth Caleb has lost. I mean, it's like what, and I don't
Seems like he might have lost some adult teeth.
I don't think they're wearing down. Like, I mean, I see a lot of old people and
yeah. It's not about wear and tear for humans, as much as it's just about.
It would be nice to. What if it happened like a shark? Like they're lining up like in a coliseum to drop down. You know, I am not with you on this one, Caleb, because if there's anything I hated in childhood, it was getting my toenails cut. But if it was anything else, it was losing teeth. Man, losing teeth was like pulling teeth for me. It's horrible. Like my Aunt Vicky, man, I went over to her house and like, I would let the tooth just rot out and it would have to fall out on its own.
Yikes.
But she would get antsy and she would say, come over here and I'm gonna wrap it up in a Kleenex and yank it out.
This is where being an only child gave you a disadvantage in this area. When you have siblings,
yeah,
they do things like tie your tooth up to like a 3-wheeler, and you know what I'm saying? Like
that happened to you?
No, but that's an exaggerated form of the kind of things that happen.
Did Cole do something to you? You tell us all?
I don't have any specific memories. I have more like I watched this happen on the internet type memories, and I'm sure that we did something like that.
Did you enjoy pulling your own teeth?
I enjoyed right after it was pulled.
Because it's annoying for it to be loose?
Yeah, it's like having this weird thing in your mouth and you're like, I gotta get rid of this thing.
It's like a jostly hangy rock.
There's a sense of euphoria when it comes out. And then after it comes out, it's like, oh, that didn't hurt. You know what I'm saying? It's like.
But it's bloody and it's fleshy under there, and the color of that pulpy flesh is just gross.
Don't look at it. You have to really make an effort to look at it.
And then a few hours later, you gotta eat something? This is why I still have my wisdom teeth, by the way. You know what? I should have had those pulled decades ago.
Well, you don't need to worry about it now.
And now it's like, well, as long as you keep them clean. So I try really hard. But if I had to look, if I was like, oh, I'm middle age, about to get my old man teeth, they're wider. And so for every 2 you lose, you get 1 in its place or something interesting like that. It's, I don't know, it'd be something to look forward to. But the losing thing, even at this age, like I've never pulled any of my children's teeth. I can't believe that Lando, he would get so annoyed with them, he would pull them out. He worked up a lot more courage than me.
That's normal childhood behavior.
But Lando is a lot like me at that age. There was a lot of just nervousness, right? So aren't you a little surprised that he's just yanking them out?
Yeah.
So I'm proud of the guy.
But it's because he's got brothers and sisters. Even just the presence of siblings has an impact on that kind of thing. That's my theory. But I don't think, you're talking about pulling teeth.
And the tooth fairy would sometimes wait over a week to come and get that tooth from him.
The tooth fairy doesn't visit our house. I don't know if he knows where we live. I think this is more this situation that I'm getting at, which is you accidentally lose a tooth for some reason, right? I certainly hope this doesn't happen to me in my adult life, but it could.
Wow, you really fear this.
I would say I have a rational fear of getting my teeth knocked out. First of all, just whatever happens that you get your teeth knocked out.
Does it break off or does the root come out too?
It depends on the nature of it, man. I mean, I'm thankful that we live in modern times and it will be a relatively easy thing. And I've got plenty of friends who were like, oh yeah, this whole half of my top teeth are fake or something like that. And I had no idea. But it's interesting because, evolution doesn't have an awareness of any modern technology, right? So evolution is just happening blindly based on people's environments and adaptations. And so for whatever reason, it was not seen as advantageous to have another set of teeth. But you have to know that lots of people are losing teeth. And now in the modern world with sugar, basically just sugar, you got tooth decay that also evolution was never prepared for, right? So you've got like certain cultures that are like living in the Amazon and all of a sudden they're introduced to modern foods and then their just teeth start falling out because they have not coupled eating sugary foods with modern dental hygiene. You got to have both of those together. And even sometimes if you don't do a good job of cleaning those wisdom teeth, they're gonna have to pull them out someday. So I don't know. I don't really understand why we don't have the backup teeth, but it was just determined to not be worth the genetic effort.
I'm so thankful for that. The thing about wisdom teeth is you pull those out and they don't want to come out. That's what's been so scary for me all these years.
Yeah, my father-in-law pulled mine because he's a dentist. And
he just has a wanton desire to yank something that
he loves
is perfectly at home where it is out.
Well, he loves oral surgery in general. And in my mind, he like had one leg up on the dentist chair. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it was like one of them was so, my roots were twisted.
Oh.
And like my head was like going, like, like really like, he was like, I was having to like hold my neck back.
And it's like, makes a popping sound when it comes out?
I don't recall.
The only way I would do it is if I was drugged so aggressively.
Okay, this next question, this is a head scratcher. I think I do have an answer though, or at least something that can guide us. This is from, is that Xylie's servant?
Yeah.
Sid. If a blood donor kills someone, can the person who received the murderer's blood be convicted of the murder based on DNA evidence?
This is why blood donating is anonymous. So you can't frame somebody. Could this happen?
It doesn't matter if it's anonymous because let's just say you just received a bunch of blood and then you got mad at somebody or there was just some justifiable reason that you wanted to kill somebody. And you did it, and in the process, you were like stabbed and you bled in the crime scene. Could the DNA of the blood, let's just say you got like almost a full blood transfusion.
Point to the donor, yeah.
So we're not scientists. I think that's been made abundantly clear. but we do know how to read articles on the internet.
Well, but I didn't read any articles.
So go ahead and give me your best guess, and I'll give you some scientific guidance afterwards.
I think that your let's see, because DNA. I mean, there's certainly DNA in blood because it's just a cell. They all have the DNA, but to me, it has to do. If you did it immediately, like you got a like a huge freaking blood transfusion, like I would say it would have to be like over 90% of your blood would have to be replaced because I think somehow you gotta have maybe I'll say 65% of your blood has to be replaced, and then
You're getting very specific for
and
just
then
a non-scientific guess.
You have to murder somebody within, I would say, an hour.
And that's tough. To get a blood transfusion and then murder somebody?
Yeah, you're pretty weak at that point.
That would be so badass.
But
you walk right out of the hospital and just kill the first person you see.
Or just do it right in the hospital. Kill the person who's saving your life. There's the irony.
Yeah, but we're not gonna really need much of an investigation if you kill like the person in the hospital bed next to you.
That's true.
Giving you blood.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I'm not a criminal. You know what?
I'm glad you're not a detective.
But I think that your blood assimilates very quickly. Like foreign blood is accepted and like the DNA is replaced, or there's just not enough of it. I think that's what it is.
So
it has to be quick and it has to be a big transfusion.
I mean, I think you're basically right.
Oh, thank goodness.
Scientific American has this article from 2009 by Michelle Gong.
Michelle N. Gong, an assistant professor at the Mount Sinai School of Medicine, explains. So we got an assistant professor?
Well, I mean, she's probably a professor at this point.
Sounds like a TA to me.
So basically, I'm not gonna read this whole article, but it seems to be the case that there is DNA in blood that has been transfused, but it is almost certainly going to be overwhelmed by the DNA of the recipient. Like, so in the crime scene, now you're kind of talking about like just blood everywhere. Typically DNA evidence is like hair, skin cells, saliva. There's more than just blood, right? Mm-hmm. But even within the blood, and I guess, I mean, if you replace 90% of your blood, I don't know what the case is, but typically if you just go and you receive blood because you needed a blood transfusion that did like a certain percentage of your blood, mm-hmm. It says that donor DNA and blood transfusions in the recipients persist for a number of days, sometimes longer, but its presence is unlikely to alter genetic tests significantly. Basically, once you go and you start-
It could happen though.
Like analyzing the DNA, the overwhelming DNA signature will be from your existing DNA, right? But if that one situation of where you just basically are full of donor blood and it's got the DNA, now it says something about like transfused blood, red blood cells, the primary component in transfusions, have no nucleus and no DNA.
What?
Transfused blood does, however, host a significant amount of DNA containing white blood cells or leukocytes, around 1 billion cells per unit, roughly 1 pint of blood.
Red blood cells have no nucleus and no DNA?
So yeah, you not saying that there is not a DNA signature there, but there's gonna be red blood cells. You're gonna have some red blood cells. There's gonna be some DNA there, and your body quickly assimilates. I don't know what that process is like and how the DNA gets overwhelmed and replaced, but I think that the chances of that particular situation of somebody getting all their blood, killing somebody, and the majority of their DNA being left at the scene is just more blood. Mm-hmm. We've probably never had the opportunity to experiment with that specific scenario.
I'm sure there's been somebody who they've taken like a pint of blood that's not theirs
with them
to frame somebody. But forensically, you gotta be real smart about it.
But I think actually
the spatter.
taking.
I've watched enough CSI.
I think you take hair, spit, and some skin. if you really want to leave the mark of somebody else. But getting all that from a person is difficult.
You want to receive a blood donation, a hair donation, and a skin and spit donation.
Well,
and then kill somebody.
If you coordinate this right, you could do it. Right. First of all, you got to develop a relationship with their barber. Right.
Yeah.
You can get lots of hair from a barber, and you can come up with all kinds of semi-legitimate reasons why you would need it.
I'm making
a sweater for my kid.
Do you know that the most comfortable pillows are made of human hair?
You don't want to tell the barber something that seems like a great business idea. It needs to be something personal, not something scalable like hair pillows.
Yeah, I want to do a one-of-a-kind hair painting for that guy who was just in your chair, who I'm actually framing for murder.
You know,
I want to give him a hair painting gift.
I believe that this is one of the scenarios where you're saying exactly the truth. Like sometimes in movies, like the killer will say exactly the truth, and it's so outlandish that nobody takes it seriously.
I want to frame this guy for a murder I'm about to commit.
Right, and they just give you the hair and you walk out.
Yeah.
So that's easy. Get the hair. Skin, you got to talk to their, I guess, masseuse.
You got to talk to their masseuse.
You got to be like, after you rub this person down, can I
slough your hands
for science purposes? Can I get a sample of skin from your hands? Spit, that's super easy. I mean, there's a number of ways to get people spit. You could be like a fake 23andMe kind of service, get them to spit in something. You could probably go door to door. We're collecting the neighborhood spit.
Yeah, you could.
People will probably give you their spit.
You could just clean their. I think the best thing to do, clean their house. Like show up as a cleaner.
Oh, this is
first service free. You get all the cells you want of every type, man.
Yeah, and you can also dust for fingerprints and then maybe create some sort of
freaking Tony Danza.
Okay, that was it. Okay.
What's the next one?
The next one is also a crime question.
Oh yeah, here we are. CSI. Don't get fooled again, Mariah. I don't see Mariah's handle because I screenshot this incorrectly. Mariah, though. If someone is framed for, we're in crime framing. If someone is framed for a crime and ends up in prison, but then they escape, and while they are on the run, the police figure out who really did the crime and put them away instead, would the person who wasn't supposed to be locked up in the first place have to go back for escaping prison, or would they just be free since they technically weren't supposed to be there anyway?
Well,
so if you're wrongfully convicted and imprisoned, you escape and then at the same time exonerated.
Enter Harrison Ford. I'm not lying, and this was not a setup for this question, but me and Shepard watched The Fugitive together like 3 weeks ago.
I remember that being a good movie. I watched it basically when it came out.
One of the
like 94-ish, 92?
Early 90s. One of the things that I end up doing quite often when I'm trying to figure out what we're gonna watch as a family.
I saw a movie, did you hear that?
Oh yeah. Link has seen this movie, which is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, okay, there you go, that's all I needed.
I'll look up like top 100 thrillers of all time. You know, I was like, I wanna watch an action movie, a good action movie with Shepard. And pulled up The Fugitive. And of course, as it's coming on, first of all, there's a moment in every movie that's made before like 2004 where kids know because the credits are so long at the beginning of the movie. They're like, what is this opening title sequence for like 3 minutes where they're telling me everybody who did everything in the movie? Like, you can't do that anymore because people are like, what the hell is this? Put that at the end, I don't care about it.
A lot of movies, they put the title at the end now.
Yeah, you got no time. You got to get into it, man.
I'm not a fan of that, by the way.
Title at the end?
Not a fan of the title at the end.
I want the title up front, but I don't need. I watch the credits. I'm in LA. I'm in the industry. I stick around and I watch the credits until the movie's done when I go to a theater.
Long opening sequence to The Fugitive.
But this is the plot of The Fugitive, which is by the way, highly recommended movie. And yes, we are going to spoil it, but you can imagine if the setup of the thing is the guy is wrongfully convicted for a murder, in this case, the murder of his wife, you can imagine that he's going to exonerate himself. But the movie is basically about him being a fugitive. He's being chased by a federal agent and played by Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh yeah.
At his finest.
Oh yeah?
Well, at his Tommy Lee Jones. I mean, he's just the same guy in every movie. And he's on the run, and then he's trying to prove his innocence. And he has an outlandish story about a guy with a prosthetic limb who killed his wife. Turns out that it's got some stuff to do with some pharmaceutical scheme, etc. But, and also Jane Lynch makes a cameo before she was, a household name. She's like, she works at the hospital. Anyway, in the movie, and I based all my legal opinions off of things that happened in movies from the 90s.
He never went to prison. He didn't escape from prison, did he?
Oh, yeah. He was.
I thought he escaped.
He was in custody.
On the way or something.
Well, he was in custody, whether he's in prison or not. He's in custody. He's on the inmate bus.
Yes.
And presumably he's already been in, he's been in jail awaiting trial. He gets convicted. He's being transferred to prison with a bunch of prisoners in a bus. The bus wrecks, and he's given the opportunity to escape, and he takes it. And then he's on the run, and then he spends the whole movie trying to prove himself innocent. And of course,
spoiler alert, he was not.
He's totally guilty. No, so, and at the end of the movie, when basically, Tommy Lee Jones, you can kind of tell is becoming convinced of his innocence as the movie is going on. And so at the end of the movie, it's kind of like, dude, I know you escaped the deal and we've been running all over the place, but
you can't do it.
You're innocent, so yeah, go free, whatever.
Oh, Tommy Lee Jones did let him go.
Yeah, I
don't remember that.
He's the implication, I can't, even though it's only been 3 weeks, I can't remember exactly what happens. The implication is he's exonerated himself, everybody knows it, and he's not gonna be in prison. And he's not going to be, this is the thing, because in America, I went to Quora, which is like where people who are sometimes experts or at least claim to be experts or think they're experts answer questions. And the answer to this question was filled with a bunch of people saying that at least in the United States, the act of escaping confinement is in itself a crime, and often involves some sort of property damage, and maybe some sort of assault is required in order to get out. So, but let's just say that it's a perfect situation. You didn't break any laws. You just you looked, and all of a sudden the gate at prison was open and you just walked out.
Yeah.
You technically committed a crime when you did that, but in the court of public opinion, if you're exonerated when you're out,
the judge may say, the time served.
Yeah, right.
Time served.
Right.
In some countries,
especially if the time you've served is more than the time that would have been for a prison escape. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. In some countries, I have read, it is not illegal to escape in prison.
I saw that too.
But
can that be true?
But it seems true because I read it and it was it's grammatically correct.
How is that possible though?
But you typically,
it's like saying you should escape.
And then I don't know. The one thing I read was because it's the natural. You can't punish somebody for their natural inclination to want to not be in prison. But really,
well, what do they have a natural inclination to kill somebody?
That's a ridiculous rationale. But even in those countries, there's typically other infractions associated with it that you can still be convicted for and put back behind bars associated with an escape. And then there was this one anecdote of this guy, I think in Germany, where it is claimed to not be illegal to escape. That his prison outfit showed up at the prison, laundered and folded, and in a considerate way shipped back to them. So then they didn't have, he didn't steal the. Oh, sounds like an urban legend.
Yeah,
I read that.
I have my doubts about why that would not be the law, but I don't know. I've never thought about it.
You talk about exoneration in movies. I think about The Hurricane, Denzel Washington. I definitely want to see that again.
It's been a long time since I saw that.
That was a good movie. It's a really good movie. Gotta watch that one again.
Oh, another good movie, and this along the same lines, Just Mercy. I watched that recently.
New movie.
Michael B. Jordan, but again, based on a true story, like a young attorney trying to prove a guy innocent. And the guy still to this day operates this institution that is basically like the Innocence Project kind of thing, but offering legal.
Yeah, I was gonna mention the Innocence Project because once you start thinking about the horrifying reality of being falsely imprisoned. I mean, there's one guy who was in prison for 37 years and then exonerated.
You know,
for a rape he didn't commit.
I have an incredible story. I wasn't planning on telling, but my dad told me this. I was talking to my dad, who up until this year he retired. He was a law professor, and of course he was a lawyer before he was a law professor. And I was talking to him about how much I enjoyed Just Mercy, which is the story again of a young attorney, a young black attorney going down to Alabama and trying to prove, like sort of re-examine the evidence around this black guy who was falsely accused of murdering a white woman. And it takes place in Just Mercy takes place in like the 80s or 90s or early 90s, I think. And as you can imagine, the guy was wrongfully convicted. I was telling my dad about it, and he's
if you're gonna make a movie about it, then yeah.
Right. He starts telling me a story. I'm like, why have you never told me this story before? So when my dad was a very new attorney, like had just graduated from law school and like just passed the bar. Mm-hmm. He's at that point you're kind of assigned cases. And so there's a guy who is a security guard at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And like whatever year this is, my dad's beginning to practice law, so early 70s. And a guy breaks into the Smithsonian and he has to shoot him and kill him.
Wow.
And as they're now he's innocent for shooting the dude, but in the process of like examining like who this guy is, they're like, this guy is a prison escapee.
The security guard.
The security guard. This guy escaped from an Georgia, from a Georgia chain gang in like 1940. Okay. So like 30 years ago, right? And he was convicted of some crime. I don't know what it was. I don't know what the crime was, but he was convicted of a serious crime, a felony, and then he was on the chain gang and he escaped from the chain gang and then goes on to live a normal life. But they find, this guy is freaking from a chain gang. And so they assign the case to my dad.
To defend him. Oh, wow.
And my dad sits down with him and basically he's like, this guy went on to live a completely fruitful, life, contributing to society. And also, by the way, because my dad asked him flat out, he was like, did you do the thing that you were convicted of? He's like, no. And he was like, he said, I didn't even have the opportunity to enter a plea. And so my dad's like, okay, yeah, Georgia, 1940. I can imagine that this is the way it was. So my dad starts looking at the documents, like the records, and he finds that there is a guy, some position in the court, who was overseeing an attorney who was overseeing these cases at the time, who is still alive and who is now like 90 years old and lives somewhere in Georgia. And my dad goes to the dude's house, which is crazy because this is kind of what happens in Just Mercy, where like you go to these people who have something to do with the case. And of course, in Just Mercy, it's just, a decade ago or whatever, but this is like decades ago. And he sits down with this guy and he says, this is my client and this is what happened. Do you remember this case? And he was like, I don't remember the details of that case, but I'll tell you the way that it used to work. He said, every Monday morning, everybody that we had arrested, he said, every black person that we had arrested.
Okay.
We'd bring them into court and we would enter a guilty plea for all of them. Everyone. He says, would not give them an opportunity to testify, would not give them an opportunity to even to enter a plea. They would represent them all as a collective, regardless of what had happened, whatever they've been arrested for, just enter a guilty plea and then sentence them. Systemic racism. It's real.
So there's no trial, it's just a conviction. It's just a sentencing.
So he's like, well, obviously this is wrong. And so my dad like takes this, I don't know exactly what he did, but he basically takes this evidence to this thing, and the judge says, all right, this was a wrongful conviction and he's free, but then it's appealed, or they have to take it to the district court, which was in New Orleans. And my dad is, he's
green.
He's green. He's already received like his like $500 or whatever you get to represent somebody, and you're not supposed to receive any more. He's like, do you want me to go to New Orleans and defend this guy? And the judge was like, yep, and we'll make sure that we pay for your expenses or whatever. He didn't have any money. So he goes down there and basically presents the case to just a big court. It's like a district court is just a bunch of judges like overseeing a bunch of cases, right? And they let the dude go.
Dang, that needs to be a movie, man.
Yeah, I was like, Dad, this is basically just mercy. Well, I was like, why have you never told me this story?
The interesting thing about it is that the guy, after decades, maybe there's not as much fear, but there's still got to be this thing that's like, I haven't been caught, but I could have been found out, and it could still happen. And I'm a security guard, and I'm doing everything right, but then he's presented with this opportunity. To do his job requires shooting somebody in the Smithsonian, or not, by the way. He didn't, at that moment, it sounds like he did the right thing that put him in danger of scrutiny, that then it came to pass. So doing the right thing put him in the crosshairs of going back to prison.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, I think the thing that Just Mercy highlights is that, okay, yes, because of the civil rights movement, things have gotten better. That exact scenario doesn't happen anymore. But the fact is that the roots of that systemic racism are still very alive and well, and they continue to be cut back. They continue to be rooted out, literally. But as recently as the early 90s, it was basically almost exactly the same scenario, but just with one individual guy. And then this stuff is still, there's still a lot of this existing in sentencing, and it still exists. It's like if any sort of nonpartisan evaluation of the current justice system shows that there is still a bunch of inconsistencies and a bunch of injustice towards people of color.
You should
still around, and that's why BLM exists.
Yeah, but by the way, you should get some more stories from your dad. You should.
Well, he's got a really good one that I think I've told before about the being attacked by some female inmates who escaped from a place that he was like working. He got like, they teamed up on him and beat him up and got out.
What?
Like 2 or 3 female prisoners. Yeah, it's he's got a good story about that too.
Were they innocent? Did he exonerate them after the fact?
He represented them after the fact.
Okay, we could do a crime podcast. We kind of did.
Like a new podcast?
You could just turn this into a crime podcast.
Crime Biscuits.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll sleep a little better at night, some of you.
Yeah, and you know what? There's many more questions that we didn't get to, so we'll do this again. This was a fun conversation. Led to some really interesting places. You know what? I wasn't gonna make this my rec, but I am gonna make it now that I talked about it. Just Mercy, the movie. It's super well done, first of all. You got Jamie Foxx playing the guy who was convicted. You got Michael B. Jordan playing the attorney. Really great performances, and I just think it's one of those things that I think it's important to, especially if you question whether or not this systemic racism that people talk about actually exists. And based on some of the stuff that I see on the internet, a large percentage of people at least in America, continue to question whether or not this is even a reality. They think this is just some trumped up bullshit that's trying to support some kind of Marxist movement or whatever the latest conspiracy theory is about it. When the reality is there's a lot of injustice that's been done, and this movie does a great job. It's just a great movie, it's a great story, and it does a really good job of highlighting exactly how frustrating it would be to be a black person in the justice system, especially at that juncture, in that place, in the deep South, Alabama. So Just Mercy, watch it, it's good.
And if you want to go back a few decades, the hurricane is a similar story.
Yeah.
All right, hashtag Ear Biscuits. Let's continue the conversation. Let us know what you think. And we'll speak at you again next week because
that's what we do.
We want to. We enjoy it. To watch more Ear Biscuits, click on the playlist on the right.
To watch the previous episode of Ear Biscuits, click on the playlist to the left.
And don't forget to click on the circular icon to subscribe.
If you prefer to listen to this podcast, it's available on all your favorite podcast platforms. Thanks for being your mythical best.